He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Kia ora. Just a warning before we get started, this episode of Tukua contains discussions of nudity and sexual practices and may not be suitable for everyone.
Tukua, 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 Tukua.
This episode's Skinsuit, an event where queer sex workers take over a strip club to create a safe space.
A lot of my trans and POC sex workers not feeling safe in spaces or not even being able to be hired in strip clubs because they're trans. I wanted to create a space where they could do that and could make some money and feel supported.
Nau mai, haere mai, and welcome to Tukua, an intergenerational arts podcast presented by 75-year-old arts activist and academic Ngāhuia te Awekōtuku.
I loved every second of it. And yet, yes, there was nudity and outrage and nipples everywhere, but God, it was good.
Gen X sculptor Brett Graham.
What I appreciated is that it was clearly a safe space.
And 24-year-old stand-up comedian Kura Turuwhenua.
I still haven't gone to a quote-unquote normal strip club.
Each episode, one of us chooses an arts event and makes the others come too. So what could possibly go wrong? Oh, and then there's me, Catherine Graham, the producer. I get to keep them all in line.
Tukua, 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 Tukua.
So, Brett, we're off to the Skinsuit show, which has got lots of, various parts to it. What are you expecting?
Well, that's the thing, I don't know what to expect. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. It's going to be quite a challenge, but somebody's got to do it. So this is Kura's choice, and it's sort of representative of her gen. A lot of kids who are right into pole dancing as an art form, so it's going to be intriguing.
And there's also some artwork there. It's very illustrative. I've seen some of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've apparently there's been some of the performers out on the street looking really glam. So revving up a bit of excitement. So that's what we're looking forward to when we go in the door. Anything's going to happen.
So Kura, we're just about to go into Skinsuit, and you've been before, right? So what should the others expect? Because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I came to Skinsuit, it was actually my first ever introduction to strip clubs at all. Once you're in the space, it's just a room full of young, happy people and also I feel like it's older members of the queer community as well were there, and a stage set up in the middle with a pole on it, and I don't know what the hell was going to happen, but it just ended up being a great night of sex workers and performers and dancers just doing their thing in a real safe environment.
Why did you choose this kaupapa?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about how it's an intergenerational show, and I was trying to think of what would be a good way of showing my generation and the people and the communities that I've been supported by and hope to support back.
This is a queer strip club, as I'm sure you know. We are not to be touching our performers tonight unless you get that clear verbal consent. There might be a little bit of audience interaction. However, consent goes both ways, so you can also say no. It's also a no photography event, so we're going to put stickers over your phone so you can't take photos. However, you can take as much sound bites as your heart desires. We're not going to tolerate any sexual harassment, any racism, any homophobia. If you see anything go down, you go to our safety sirens. They are wearing bright yellow lanyards. You cannot miss them. That was a lot of word vomit for y'all. But other than that, please have a fun night and go pop your pussies.
The first performer.
believe it. We have the sensual, the sexy Prince!
We've seen half the show, and you've had a chance to have a look around. What are your first impressions of this event?
Absolutely amazing. 2025 and yet 1965, 1975. Absolutely amazing, brave, confrontational yet not. Some really classic strip work. Something that blew me away when it began. There were 8 acts, and I think my first act was a male performer who reminded me of a show that used to be in Hotel Street, Honolulu, in the 1960s, 70s, at the Glades Polynesian Pacifica drag show. A man, a being, a truly extraordinary entertainer called Prince Hanalei. His body was perfection. And seeing these young people today wriggling and writhing and conquering and compelling the pole, the stage, the roaring, screeching, overexcited audience, the vigor, the vitality, the fact that we're living at a time of crisis, of controversy, of sexual challenge and revenge, all of that, I loved every second of it. And yet, yes, there was nudity and outrage and nipples everywhere, but God, it was good.
Have you had a chance, well, you will when you go back in, to have a look at some of the other rooms with the other...
I'm really looking forward to it. Having spent a lot of my youth in some really crazy nightclubs in London, New York, San Francisco, Sydney, Honolulu, seeing literally the cutting edge of human entertainment and stretching the limits of the human body. And what some of these young people did tonight in these remarkable Vivienne Westwood high-heeled patent leather boots was truly remarkable. What blows me away too is the athleticism, the acrobatic talent, the sheer physical strength of the performers. And that included one really chubby Polynesian in white who was wobbly and beautiful.
I thought the pole was going to go.
I did too, because it kept lifting. But oh no, he sailed on, having removed his white fluffy bolero. There he was, having removed his rather brilliant neon-lit white cowboy hat. There he was in his white Levi's, swinging around this amazing pole, and he was a chunky Polynesian boy, but magnificent. And
a good move.
Really good move. And for me, it's stuff like that which I think just lets us know that we will never go away as queer, Queer, contributors to the world of theatre and joy and entertainment and outrage.
Tukua.
With the music still ringing in our ears, Tukua got together a couple of days later to rehash the event. Kura, let's start with you, because this was your choice and it was very different to anything that Tukua has been to before and potentially will go to again in this series. Can you explain to our audience what Skinsuit is and why you wanted Tukua to attend?
I think in the simplest version, Skinsuit is a queer strip club. They had done one instalment, their first instalment, early in the year, and I went to that with a couple of my mates. So when we were thinking about this podcast and each of us picking somewhere to go, I was really struggling with what we could go to that would kind of represent where I come from and maybe where my generation is at as well. And when I was thinking about Skinsuit, I saw that they were about to do a second instalment, and I thought, I think that's it. Because the first one I went to, I enjoyed it so much, and I really thought it was kind of a show that I felt reflected where, well, at least my part of this generation are at the moment. And I really like the intentions behind it too, because in all their marketing and advertising and explanations of what the evening was, they made it very clear that it was about the well-being of sex workers, prioritising the performers and their safety above the audience, which I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool, because all I knew about... I'd also never been to a strip club before going to Skinsuit. It was the seediness and the weirdness that's kind of freaked me out.
The seediness and the weirdness of what?
Of standard strip clubs, or at least in my brain, because of everything that I'd heard about them. I still haven't gone to a quote-unquote normal strip club, so in my brain, like when I imagine a strip club, I'm like, oh my god, it's going to be some like dark, decrepit room with like weird old men sitting around and like gawking at young women, and it just like felt real like weird to me, and I was always curious about it, but not curious enough to actually go. And so when I heard about Skinsuit, and it was queer-led and centred on queer people and sex workers and their well-being and their safety, I was like, oh, well, that seems like a great introduction into this world above this other thing, which I find weird and creepy in my brain. Not that I know, because I haven't been, but honestly, after going to Skinsuit, I don't even really feel like I need that because of how good that space is, in my opinion.
And what was it about it particularly that you enjoyed the most?
There's so many things that I enjoy about it. I guess it's just the fact that all the people in the room are there for, I'm going to say, the kaupapa, which is fun and joy and sexiness and just being able to express yourself, whether it's the audience and what they're wearing or who they're going with, all the way to the performers being able to showcase their talents. And everyone is just there for it and real happy and on a good buzz, but also willing to protect the space and protect that energy. Yeah, that's what I liked.
Ngāhuia, you also seem to enjoy yourself at the event. What did you think you were going to see, and was it what you thought you were going to see?
I wasn't sure what I was going to see because this is Auckland, Aotearoa, New Zealand, far away from places like Torture Garden and Fist and
What?
the Shibari clubs.
What the heck is Torture Garden?
Well, that's what I mean. These are famous queer clubs, London, New York. And I also, of course, revisited the strip clubs of K Road and Vivian Street and King's Cross, way back, 50 years back, where most of the performers were drag queens, and they were openly queer. And there were girls, like biological women, who performed as men. I'm old, and so, well, I am, I'm nearly 80. So here's someone, I'm coming from that background, and I've kept it going in my life. I still go to places like that, not here. And there is an evolution, there is a cultural journey, there is that sense of control over your own objectification. And yes, Kura, the seedy, weird, creepy, straight, ugly, Trump-esque strip clubs are still out there. The circuit is sports clubs. The performers are usually quite rattled.
Rattled? What does that mean?
Rattled.
Old and used up.
Yeah, kind of running out of energy.
Not always, though.
But not always. Well, they get artificial help. What I really enjoyed most of all was that sense of joy, fun, sexiness, and the willingness to look after each other. That came across really, really clearly. The costuming, the colour, the ghastly music.
It was very loud. I thought it was way
really
too loud. Yeah.
And really hurt your ears. But just that joie de vivre, that sort of up there and everybody's moving and you want to move as well.
At the Skinsuit dress rehearsal, I'd spoken to the organiser, Miles Knowles, about her experience working at strip clubs.
The drive or the why for holding this event was like being a queer sex worker myself, not having a space that felt like I was able to just perform artistically with my pole skills for an audience that like wasn't perceiving me and wasn't judging my body or my queerness or whatever that looks like. Yeah, there's just a lot of bad management at specifically strip clubs. Also a lot of my like trans and POC sex workers not feeling safe in spaces or not even being able to be hired in strip clubs because they're trans, and so then they resort to like unsafer ways of sex work. And yeah, that's just not fun for our whānau and our people, so I wanted to create a space where they could do that and could make some money and feel supported.
Well, let's just see what Brett thought first.
See what Brett.
What I appreciated is that it was clearly a safe space for those queer performers. I mean, that's the burden of becoming older, is that you have seen things before. You know, the number of times they go into art galleries and these people are young and hip and cool and they think they've reinvented the wheel.
This is not new.
I was going to say nothing's new.
This is not new, but it is a different iteration because the purpose of it is pure joy and exploration. There was a lot of exploring. You know, delicate little baby steps into kink, into BDSM. We saw that with Shibari, which was so, well, I don't know.
You thought it was quite tame, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
The vast majority of the audience were Pākehā.
Yep.
And how they've aligned that alternative set with, you've got this very tall, glamorous-looking MC. And one of the first things he says is free Indigenous peoples, free Palestine, free Indigenous peoples. So that's what I mean, this alignment of otherness, of alternative culture straight away. Indigenous values, what's current in the world today, otherness. And so that sort of set the stage for what was going on. And, you know, I did feel like a bit of a coral being there.
Well, you weren't feeling well, so that's, you know.
But, you know, I appreciate that they were creating a safe space for those performers, because those same performers in a mainstream strip club would be treated very differently.
What did you think of the art value, of the performance value, Kura?
I think that something I'm always amazed by, especially with pole dancers, is they're just straight up athletes. Like the things that they can do, and not only are they athletes, but they're fantastic performers. You see someone get on a pole, there's so many different skill sets. There's strength, there's flexibility, there's grace, and not every pole dancer is good at all those things. Even some of the most like athletic looking people might not be good at grace, or bigger people might be like insanely strong, insanely good at dancing. There's a real massive range of ability when it comes to pole, but that's just from me observing people around me doing pole. But yeah, that's it. What I was saying before is that not only are they like these performers, they're like athletes and insanely strong, insanely practiced, but they're also fantastic performers. There was a couple of them that I felt like they might be new or being introduced, and then I had a look through the page and that was true, and they said that some of the acts, it was their first time ever performing.
Oh, that's a good
in
environment.
that way. Yeah.
I think that with some of the performers, there was a really conscious aesthetic effect, that there was a sense of glamour, of enticement, of grace. Lots of hair work with some of them, the hair flicking about and shining and rippling and looking amazing. The first performer, I think, spoiled for me the aesthetic because he had hair on his body. And I thought, no, mate, you wouldn't pass. You've got to be totally glabrous. You've got to be totally, totally shining skin, no hair. To carry it off.
I guess that's like a preference though, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's also the visual, it's the light on the skin. You know, it's that whole sense of fluidity and grace. I thought he was outstanding though. I thought he was really
The
good.
work was great. The work was fantastic.
Athletic, acrobatic. And my other one that I really, really liked, and I thought, they were really quite remarkable, was the little black sequined cocktail frock. They broke into Summertime and began almost soprano.
Yeah,
and then ended up growling.
Yeah.
And then flounced. Did floor work getting off the stage. And that was like really old school
also
for me.
Māori.
And Māori. Well, that too, of course, helps.
Not biased here at all. There was other rooms. There was the Shibari room, which Ngāhuia was not impressed with, which, for those of you that don't know, is the Japanese art of knot tying, an art form that started off in the Japanese culture, which has become more mainstream now. Does anyone know anything more about that?
Yeah. It's a really refined and remarkable way of exploring the extremes of trust, of pain, of balance, of sensibility. It creates a particular visual effect when it's done properly. You are, as a bottom or as a receiver of Shibari, placing yourself very much, because a lot of the work that gets done can cut off blood supply, can cut off breath, can put you at extreme risk.
So there's huge element of trust.
Oh, totally. And that was part of Saturday night's event as well, this notion that you must not approach someone, and if they approach you, then be really careful. In the Shibari context, it's that extra care and sensitivity that works, and you've got the person being tied up, and you've got the expert that does the work. But it is very much a balanced, relational sensibility that creates some of the most remarkable visuals, like suspensions, people suspended from scaffolding or the ceiling. One of the great artists of all time is a woman called Mirori, and she is just really, really good. And what I was hoping to see, which I didn't see because we're in Aotearoa and we're in Auckland and we've got young people learning, is one of the principal impacts that you expect when you go into that space is contrast. Is visual contrast. And here were these two people who looked very similar. Very similar, and for me that didn't work.
Yeah.
And there were far too many, I don't want to be critical on air, but they were learning.
Yeah.
And the relationship is new, I think.
Also, the what they were doing is they had raffled slots. So there was the person that was they'd raffled slots as part of the tickets. So if you won a slot because you wanted to take part in Shibari, So you would not have necessarily met that Shibari artist before or practitioner before, so it's quite a different. That's why it was also probably quite a lower level than what you're because when you think about these kinds of practices, they're more about people who have in a trusted relationship.
As an old, I would actually counsel the organisers not to do that.
Well, maybe that was also why they were doing it at the level that they were, which is quite low level. Yeah,
basically just tying your hands together.
Yeah, so it wasn't really perhaps a full expression of the art form.
No. Well, then thank you. That's an important clarification.
And at halftime they had lap dancing. And so from what I could see, it was two people who seemed to look like women, presented as women. And one was naked and one was semi-clothed and sitting on the stage. It was a very public performance, which really does differ from lap dances that I'm aware of, which happen more in private. But what's that about? This was a very public performance, and I suppose that changes it somewhat.
It changes the energy. The lap dance classic is that more private engagement. And as I said, you have the pretty young thing wriggling all over you, but you can't actually engage with your own hands or your face or your mouth.
Well, you're not supposed to.
Whatever, no.
Yeah.
So there's this flip of really passive receiving on the part of the person putting in money to be stimulated or entertained by a wriggling, fit, young, nubile body.
We've seen Anora, we know.
Actually, the lap dancing is interesting because I didn't really think anything about it because I think I had no expectations in my mind of what a lap dance should be. And so the idea of them, just seeing them doing it on the stage was just like, oh yeah, to me, it was just like neutral, like, oh yeah, it's just like a halftime performance. The thing that was actually confusing to me though was whether the people around the lap dance were meant to tip or not. Because if they are still watching that as a performance, like during the main show, it's 8 acts and they each do a set, and it's very clear that if you like what they're doing, you tip stripper dollars.
And for our audience, stripper dollars is not money, it is stripper dollars, and that in this event, you had some stripper dollars included in your ticket price and you'd go and collect them from a machine, or if you wanted to just trade cash in. So throughout the performances, people would throw money on stage at the performer, and then the stripper money would be all collected afterwards and I guess portioned out.
That was interesting. One of the roles in that type of environment is the role of slug. And you have slugs. And there were particularly skilled
she's going
slugs.
with this.
What's a slug?
A slug.
I've asked for so many definitions.
Okay, a slug is someone that will clean your boots with their tongue. Okay.
What?
Just like boarding school.
Yes, that's right.
It takes me back to King's College.
That's the one.
Is that what they call
that's slugging. That's slugging. It's slug. And there were really skilled, attractive, nubile little slugs.
Oh, you mean picking up the money?
Crawling up and picked up the money.
I think I thought pole kittens.
Pole kittens.
I think we've got a new Gen interpretation of the slug, Ngāhuia.
Oh, okay. Well,
what the? I don't
slugging.
Slug
slugs.
feels negative.
No, slugs is I guess the other part of the slug is that you can squish it with your boot.
Oh my god.
There's that whole
Ngāhuia. Yes. I don't think the podcast world is ready for you.
Oh, okay.
Squish it.
This is R18, isn't it? R18, isn't it?
Sorry. Well, it wasn't
we'd have to put a
R18
warning
show.
on this here.
But no. They had lovely little slugs.
All right.
I just want to say.
Okay, I'm glad we got that out. Brett, did you put any money on the floor at all? We didn't get any money, did we?
No, we didn't. But in a mainstream strip club, the strippers are incredibly territorial about the money. So you put the money down and they grab it. So there you had this whole army of helpers picking up their money, which is kind of funny.
Also at the rehearsal, I spoke to Skinsuit performer Chinta about stripper dollars. What's the etiquette around tipping?
So with tipping, you want to tip for, I don't know, just to support. It's like an energy exchange. Like, that's how I see it. And the more that you as an audience are like cheering or tipping, the more it encourages the performer to be able to play and to interact with people as well. So it is transactional because we want to encourage people to pay our artists. Like, essentially this is like, you know, what strip clubs really show is that at the base of it, whether it's just you're watching visuals, whatever it is, that is an exchange. Someone has put a lot of work into that, and so by tipping it shows that you appreciate that exchange and you want more.
In a male strip club, it's a very different energy to a female, where people presenting as women take their clothes off. What is that about? One seems to be like a group experience, and the other one seems to be a very individual experience and more voyeuristic.
Creepy.
Or is it? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know how much to divulge on this. The first thing I want to say is that when I think of particular strippers, and immediately people like Carmen, Georgina Bayer, Natasha, Belinda Lee, their skill was in exciting the audience, grabbing the tip money, churning up that erotic desire and excitement by the people watching, and they took off very little. They hardly removed their clothes. I mean, the whole science of it was allure and fantasy and enchantment. There was no direct genital revealing. If you saw a nipple, that was really exciting in my day. It really was.
There's a lot of nipples on Saturday night.
Yes, well, that was really X-rated. To see a nip, you know, that was a big deal. And now it's like everything's out there. You know, with male performance, I think part of the success is that most of the audiences that really pour the bucks out and just keep spending are hen parties and straight women, cis women. They're the ones that will basically flatter and fantasize. And it's new and it's exotic and it's amazing. Whereas on the other side of things...
Do you mean because they only go for hen parties or for special events kind of thing?
Yeah, but no, it's also exciting because it's reversing the usual practice of men looking at women.
Yeah.
You know, but here you've got bunches of women, van loads of women, half of them cut, scrambling into different
Yeah, I think
venues.
if the men's strip club didn't have hen parties, they'd run out of business.
They'd run out of business.
It's a very different experience.
It's really different. It is transactional. What was wonderful about Skinsuit is that the whole thing gets flicked around and flipped over. And although the otherness and the exotic is emphasised, the performers are in control.
Yeah.
The performers retain their mana. The performers set the rules.
Let's talk about the audience, because I looked around at the audience and apart from mostly being young, well, there were some older people there, everybody seemed to have come in a costume.
To be honest, I guess it's the whole thing is just giving everyone a place to feel safe to express themselves, dress how they want, show as much of their body as they want without being like feeling they have to be scared or on guard. And so there was lots of just people dressing the way that they wanted in full, you know, body suits and bikinis and fishnet stockings, and also playing with androgyny and expressions of gender, and very, very, very fashionable, very, very hot, pretty, handsome, beautiful looking people, and all like on their own vibe. I don't think that's new either. I really like Whā Ngāhuia and Uncle Brett talking about how it's not new, the idea of being able to express freely. So it was just, I honestly think it's full stop there. It's not a new thing. It's just something that we want more of.
Although, that's the great thing, is that it was about the performers and their safety rather than the audience being voyeurs. Because being a stripper must be like being a comedian from the point of view that the audience response is immediate, and if they don't like you,
it's quite obvious.
It's quite obvious, and it'd be quite hard. So,
although that audience was,
that's the great thing. That's what I mean about that environment, incredibly safe for them and supportive of all the different body types. Whereas mainstream strip clubs, or as I say, we comedy acts, very judgmental. If they don't like you, you're off the stage.
Yeah, I guess with comedy, the currency is laughs, but in that space, it's the dollar.
My friend and I were really conscious that we were the only two there in full leathers. Like, we were totally leathered up, and realised that we were the only two. And that was like, whoa, two old ladies. And the other thing that I guess tempered the vibe is that there were a lot of floaty fabrics. Like, there were all these floaty, diaphanous, wispy, gossamer fabrics everywhere. And that is so not sex club. It is so not.
Well, the old one, not the new one.
No, well, this is, yeah, I know. But it was like everything was kind of fairyland, drifty, diaphanous, dainty. There was a,
so more feminine?
Soft, very soft. Everything was.
Whereas leather.
Botticelli Primavera.
Yes, rather.
Whereas
very
leather
Botticelli
is more.
Primavera.
Leather is more tough.
Oh, leather's hard. Leather's confrontational.
But maybe that's generational.
That's a generational thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe leathers will go the same way as furs, animal products.
No, but then the alternate costume is PVC. Like the same clubs where you've got the leather girls and the leather boys, the alternate costuming was PVC, was shiny,
doesn't
artificial.
Breathe like leather.
No, but it still looks bloody good. And especially if it's transparent.
Oh.
If it's transparent, if it's clear. If it's clear PVC. And there's that,
What could I?
It's just like so fascinating to me to hear you say that, you're on full leathers, and considering like where strip clubs have, just culturally come from and looked like over time, that you come into this strip club and suddenly you look different to everyone. That's really crazy to me to hear that. I would never have thought in my brain that you and your mate Janine were thinking that.
Any other aspects? Because I thought it was interesting that a lot of the performers had gone to art school and put themselves through different arts. They'd gone, and this is their current form of expression. I thought that was just a stereotype that students put themselves through by doing sex work and or stripping, but it seems to be a real thing.
Well, when I was at university in the States, in a way, that was the case, because you had to pay to go to university and it was expensive. So a lot of the students did moonlight as strippers, whereas, and that culture has come here. So it's just the reality of paying for student debt.
It's interesting too, though, because like a Toi Whakaari student, that's a drama school.
Yeah, apparently there were a lot of Toi Whakaari, ex-Toi Whakaari students performing or have performed.
In a way, I feel like in that space, a Toi Whakaari student would actually thrive.
Well, they're putting on it. It's they're assuming a character,
Stage.
perhaps.
And watching the acts, it really felt like they all put in a lot of thought as well into vibe, style, their song, their dance, their costume, and there was a lot of craftsmanship in all of the acts, especially because I stayed the whole time. And so the first half you had the 8 acts, 5-10-minute set, and then the second half you had those same people do a different set. And a lot of them, well, actually all of them, they changed costume, they changed song, but some of them were quite drastically different.
Performer and ex-drama school pupil Chinta again.
I would say that all sex work is art because, there's so many creative elements to it, from the makeup you wear to the way that you perform as your... some people embody a character, I'd say, or, if they're just comfortable in themselves, then they'll just be themselves, but a club version, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're used to that with actors.
Yeah. So there's an element of characterization, as well as you choose your music and the style that you dance with. And I'd say even in a lap dance room as well, you choose how you move and how you want to perform your sexual essence or perform your tease. So every part of it to me is artistic. There are artistic choices that go along the entire time. It's just framed in a different setting, I guess, to be able to make money.
Any last thoughts about the actual event itself, Ngāhuia?
Oh, I'll go again.
Well, you really did enjoy it, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You'll go again?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes,
Awesome.
yes, I'll turn up again. Still in leather, though.
Kura.
One thing I like about Skinsuit is that they're real explicit about money and that it's a job and that you pay the performers for what they do. So it's creativity, it's self-expression, but it's also mahi. And I really, really like that it's very, very explicitly stated, because that to me made it feel safe, because you know exactly what you're there for, which is to pay for a service.
The thing that's amazing, and I did actually make the point that in my day, very little clothing was removed.
Yeah, you did make that point. I think that's really interesting.
It was about the skill and the enticement and the imagination of the viewer. It was what they wanted to see, not what they were seeing. And it was a very different vibe.
You guys are probably better at imagining back then, because...
we didn't have social media.
My generation doesn't need to imagine anything. We're just AI generated.
No, it was all about, a lot of it, the best sex was what went on in your head. It wasn't...
Still is these days, auntie.
Some things never change.
Oh, my God.
And on that note, Tukua put the lid on its Skinsuit experience.
Tukua.
E whai ake nei, Tukua travels to the capital city to take in the wow experience. Tukua was made with support from the Creative New Zealand, New Zealand On Air and RNZ Arts and Culture Podcast Co-Fund. The creative producer is me, Kath Graham. Line producer is Parihui Makai. On location recording by Kahukura Royal. Strategic advisors Yana Tenahu Owen and Rosabelle Tan. Ngā mihi to RNZ Podcasts, Justin Gregory, and studio operators Ben Pearce, Dan Hurley, Phil Benge and Jeremy Ansell. Follow and listen to Tukua wherever you get your podcasts. Mā te wā!